So, hello everyone. On behalf of ADL Education's department, I welcome everyone watching. I'm Marcia Frith, the Director of Education Programs for ADL Southern Division. We are pleased to offer this brief read aloud and conversation with author Kathryn Otoshi and special guest Jim Perez, which will focus on Kathryn's book, Lunch Every Day. October is National Bullying Prevention Month, which is an opportunity to reflect on classroom and school culture, as well as our larger culture. It is a time to examine best practices when it comes to creating respectful environments that foster inclusion and respect. Kathryn's book, Lunch Every Day, is about bullying and how bullying behavior was interrupted in one instance. A little bit about Kathryn and Jim. Kathryn Otoshi is an acclaimed author, illustrator, and speaker, best known for her character building book series 0, 1, and 2. She encourages kids to develop strong character assets and helps educators find creative methods to engage students through art, reading, and the power of literature. Her books, Beautiful Hands, Draw the Line, and Lunch Every Day, make important statements about reaching out and building community. Her upcoming fall book, Calling the Wind, which she illustrated, is about finding hope, healing, and connecting with loved ones. Jim Perez is the manager of Safe and Healthy Schools for Alternative Education in California. For over 20 years, he has led the coordination and implementation of action research projects, in addition to designing education and violence prevention curriculum for alternative youth. Welcome to you both. We're really excited to have you here. Kathryn, let's start with you. We would love to hear a little bit about the book and then have you read Lunch Every Day.
Well, about Lunch Every Day, one of the things that I wanted to say is the book is about Jim and an experience that he had growing up and how it changed his life. As you have heard, all the amazing things Jim has done. The biggest part was Jim had told me that he was a bully growing up. And of course, that really surprised me simply because he does gang intervention, anti-bullying programs. He's really just been so amazing with his students, schools, community. So of course I asked, why? And, and what changed you? And so that's what Lunch Every Day is really about.
Thank you. Feel free to go ahead and read the book for the audience. Thank you so much.
So here's Lunch Every Day. And I'm going to start off right here with Jim's story. So Jim says when he sees that kid's having lunch, he says, there he is, look at him. Skinny neck, slumping. Is there a face behind all that hair? I can topple him with a tap. And he said, no way am I standing in that line. And in the background, you see a big free lunch sign. And he says, at least his lunch is good. Better than mine. Bet his home is better than mine too. Older brothers, Next day at school, I shove him extra hard just because I can. Someone sees me do it. Tattletale. He ends up in the office. The principal tells me to try, blah, blah, blah. My potential, blah, blah, blah. I look down like I feel bad. Mostly, I just feel mad. So things kind of just stay the same for a while. Until, hey, did you get one? Yeah, the whole class did. Huh. Skinny kid's having a party. Everyone's invited, even me. What you gonna wear? Maybe my new dress. Whatever. I'm so not going. The morning of, I look out my window. I let the sun warm me up for a while. I put on my best shirt and go. When I get there, everyone's holding a gift. I put my hands in my pockets. I walk down the pathway, up the stairs, to the front door. I see Skinny Kid's mom inside, holding his birthday cake. Everyone is celebrating in the kitchen. I stay in the living room. I slump down in a chair, kicking air. I hear a sound and look up. His mom is in the doorway, like she knows I'm there. She sees me like sees me. She marches right up to me. She says in a real quiet voice, "Jimmy, what would you like for lunch tomorrow?" And you can see over here, it says nothing. I don't want anything. And she continues on, "I hear you like my lunches. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make you a second lunch, and my son will bring it for you every day. Okay?" And do you know something? She did. And that's how I got lunch every day and a whole lot more.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. Thank you for writing the book, sharing the story. Jim, thank you for sharing your story with Kathryn. I just believe that this book resonates in so many ways with a number of people. Kathryn, I wanted to ask you first. Obviously, you heard Jim's story, but most of these stories about bullying are really written from the perspective of the target of the bullying and not necessarily the aggressor. What was so compelling about Jim's story that you decided to stay with that lens?
That point of view is so important. I did a book called One, and it was very much about standing up and making a difference. But I started realizing there's a whole nother side of the coin that we are just not seeing. And just knowing Jim, who's just a remarkable human being and has inspired me, to know that he had that whole background and history and now is in turn helping thousands of people, thousands of students, really shifted my perspective of, wow, it's so important to shine a light on people. And one of the key things about the book for me that really resonated was, I like to say there certainly is three heroes in the story. Certainly Jim, who was on one path and had the courage to change and turn things around. The mother who saw beyond what could have been her scope and opened it up to giving, and not just once, but many, many times. And to the boy who in the book, I called Skinny Kid, but who must have seen behind, this exterior, the tough exterior, the label that probably maybe Jim felt, and really open it up to seeing so much more. Because truly, Jim, for me, has such a heart of gold, and that kid must have seen it. So three heroes in this story.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. Jim, it's really a privilege to have the benefit of the person who actually experienced this with us. I wanted to ask you if you could share a little bit more context around what was happening in your life that sort of led to the behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Marcia. Unfortunately, I grew up in a family that financially was just struggling significantly. Also, language barriers. I grew up speaking Spanish, and I was going to a school that, at that point in time really was English only, and I was struggling significantly in my ability to read and write. Additionally, my financial struggles, unfortunately, back when I was in school, they gave you these huge big tickets if you had free or reduced lunch. And you would always kind of be asked to wait until the end of the line. So we were almost given like the second leftover food, which was very embarrassing. And to, so there was, issues at home, domestic violence. I have 5 brothers, and unfortunately the 3 older ones, beat me up a lot. Had a lot of struggles financially, economically, educationally, and just kind of seeing a lot of things, with my parents and the fights and struggles that they were having. So in a sense, I was almost like this kid that was lost, a little bit ashamed, embarrassed financially of not being able to have food and being hungry.
Thank you for bringing that context to the story, and also to being, so transparent about that period in your life. And I'm sure that Kathryn, you must have been really influenced by that information, and that leads me to ask you a little bit about the illustration, because there's something really is a little bit haunting at times about the illustrations, but also really impactful. I really thought about the way that you illustrated the story, and I felt there was a story within the story in the illustrations, and just really loved your choices in this. Can you talk about the illustrations a bit?
Yes, I'd love to. Yeah, I first of all, I kind of started off sketchy. I kind of wanted that, the rougher sketches, the loose paintbrush and so forth. But for the character of Jim, and this took a while for me to figure out, but I wanted Jim to be in silhouette for a while. I do have him always kind of on the side, or you see him from the back. And part of the reason too is that I wanted it to not be so specific just to Jim, but to also allow us to enter into this space. And sometimes, how we feel this way, or feel upset, or feel alone, or angry, or to the side, or pushed away. And looking down a lot. So the biggest part for me was, Jim is not seen by the reader, by the audience, until actually the woman herself sees Jim. And that's when you really see his eyes, and actually the vulnerability too, again, that Jim has given us. It's really a gift that he gave me to share this story. It takes so much courage to do something like that. But yeah, Jim told me, and please feel free, Jim, to jump in too. But at this point, I remembered him saying that, he really had tears in his eyes, thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to yell at me. I wish I never came. And just the turnaround of the page turn to see the surprise sort of reaction. And the fact that I broke it up so that you see Jim's expression and you see hers in the eyes, this kind of close-up scene, and then back into here where you see that she's really coming down to look at him. And I don't know if that actually happened, but emotionally, I felt like as an illustrator, I wanted to say, sometimes we just need to really look somebody in the eyes and see their truth. And that's the hardest part. And that's what I think, ADL does so well.
Thank you so much. Jim, did you want to add anything in terms of?
It's interesting, as Kathryn, you really did an unbelievable job illustrating it. I remember just kind of, going into the kitchen because I wanted something to drink, but I was scared to go because I knew that, I was taking this kid's lunch money or taking his meals. So I remember just kind of like looking around, and then like I got into the kitchen and I was like, kind of took a relief, like, okay, no one saw me, none of the parents. And then it's kind of, I looked up, I kind of saw like this light, and you kind of see those lights in the movie, and it's like this, kind of haunting, like I'm getting scared, and the light kept getting brighter and brighter, and that's when, his mom, kind of said, oh, what's your name? And I almost didn't want to say my name, because I was like, oh, I hope, and I hope, he didn't say who I am. And when I said my name, Jim Perez, like, oh, so you're Jim. and then she's like, what do you want for lunch tomorrow? And it was like kind of, this light became like from a dark just to like this a surreal, almost like an angel had come down, and was just, seeing me, and it was just, at that moment, it was amazing.
So can you actually just follow up on that, Jim? Can you talk about what her act of kindness, her form of intervention, ultimately did for you in your life?
Yeah, so it's interesting because at that moment when that happened, I remember going to school the next day, and literally, I was the bully. I mean, I was kind of like the king of the hill of that school. And I remember going back and I was like, all right, nobody messes with my friend. Like, that's it. He's untouchable, So the first thing was to protect him from everybody else, to make sure that, he felt this sense of protection. I wish I could tell you that that moment and that second changed my life at that moment. But the reality is I was going home to an abusive, house. We were still struggling financially. My educational and literate status was, still an issue. And I will tell you, it's kind of like that seed that was planted, like someone gave me this seed, and it was just this continuous throughout the years of like just remembering this lady and kind of remembering it, this story that, kind of happened to me. And it's just kind of as other people came into my life that cared about me, that wanted to, help me and support me. I was very fortunate that sports and athletics really introduced me to a lot of different people, to religion, to principals, to teachers that cared for me. And it's those moments that, I always wanted to give back, just like the lady gave back to me. She was there for me. And as I kind of got older and older, it was almost like surreal that I kind of forgot the story for a while. And it was actually kind of just this little project here I was working at the County Office of Education, and I had our Chief Academic Officer, Jeff Hittenberg, say, hey, listen, we're gonna have an assembly and I wanna know your why. Like, why are you who you are? What is your why? And it was kind of like soul searching. I was like, why do I wanna help? Why do I wanna be so supportive? And then it hit me back to this moment that changed my life, of wanting to let people know that I see you, I care about you, I want to be there for you, And it was so ironic because she could have been upset, she could have been mad, she could have said, you know what, don't ever come to this house again, you are not welcomed, and she could have done what society, a lot of times our students feel is, make you feel not wanted all over again and reinforcing why you're not wanted. But she didn't. She accepted me. She said, you're welcome here. It's interesting because I almost felt love for the first time, and it was that unconditional love from a stranger.
Thank you so much, Jim, for sharing that. I want to close by asking you on that note, both of you actually, I mentioned at the start of this that October is Bullying Prevention Month. And I think that hearing from you would be really impactful to people. Can you each share a final word on how you think each of us could play a role in preventing or intervening in bullying situations? Jim, I'll start with you.
Excellent. The reality is this, it's the little things that count. And I think people forget the little things, it's from making sure when you're picking up your son or daughter at school and you see a student by themselves, going over there and saying, hey, how are you doing? It's from going to the grocery store and someone, struggling, or even having difficulties and supporting them, and helping them out. It's providing food, for some of our homeless people across the board, on a school campus, and I continue to say this, I wanted to be heard. I wanted to be seen, and really having our teachers making sure that they see their children, get to know their children, ask questions to support them. Those are all key important things. And the other thing, what I would tell students is, if you're being bullied, if you're having struggles, let somebody know, let your parents know, let your teacher know. And let's just not, be hard and just try to understand why that bullying is happening. What are the root causes for that child to be bullying others on that campus.
Thank you, Jim. And Kathryn?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in. I completely agree too with one kind thing, one gesture can really make a big difference, because if you multiply it and you encourage others to do one kind thing, you talk to a school of 1,000 and what an impact. And the second part that I wanted to say is, books and reading itself, I always say this, but they're kind of like windows or doors that can open up our minds. And when you read a book about a subject matter, about kindness, about being inclusive, about issues of bullying, and how, openness, all these issues, they're hard to tackle, but through the power of a children's picture book, we learn visually, we learn audibly, but as human beings, we want to be engaged with our hearts and our spirits and our mind. And I feel like books do that, personal stories do that. And it's just one small step to the questions like, well, what would you do in this situation? Or have you ever experienced this yourself? And suddenly you start seeing hands raise up and say, yeah, that's happened to me. And the question, what can we do to make this world a better place? And so I do see personal stories and books and reading such a relevant and important thing to be able to engage hearts.
I 100% agree, and agree with you both on, just one thing, doing one thing to make a difference and to uplift someone else really is impactful overall when it comes to issues of bullying. Thank you both so much for your time. Jim, thank you for sharing your story. Kathryn, thank you for writing this story. Once again, thank you for watching this brief read aloud and conversation. ADL Education offers a number of free online resources on bullying intervention and prevention. This includes lesson plans for educators and table talks for families on bias-based bullying, cyberbullying, and ally building. Please feel free to visit adl.org to access these resources. In the meantime, stay safe and be well.